Welcome to The Uniformer. Insights into and interviews with the people and companies that drive the markets for uniforms, image apparel, public safety, and workwear.
Hello, I'm Rick from the NAUMD here for our next Uniformer Live episode. These are also all recorded. Everyone can watch them on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. Anne, introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Rick. Hi, everybody. I'm Anne Henning. I'm the Director of Account Management for Hohenstein Institute America.
Wonderful. Awesome. So, Hohenstein is this internationally known, Okie-Tex supplying standards company, but can you give us just that overview of who, Hohenstein is and the role that it plays in the general industry and the uniform industry?
Yeah, so Hohenstein is a testing institute that we specialize in textiles, consumer goods, and medical devices. And we really offer a broad suite of testing, everything from textile technology, chemical and biological testing, performance testing. Then we also have advisory services such as our apparel fit solutions and a couple of other areas where we can advise through the whole lifestyle of a product. Hohenstein is based in Germany. It's a family company. We're about 80 years old. We have over 1,500 employees. However, we have labs and testing facilities around the world, and we have satellite offices. So our head office is located in Indiana in the United States. And I think when it comes to the uniform industry, Rick, as I think you might know, Hohenstein is not Okotex, but we were a founding member of the Okotex Institute, and we're one of the biggest service providers of Okotex. And as you know, Okotex specializes in testing for harmful substances. We test for over 1,000 harmful chemicals, and we have certifications for Standard 100, organic cotton, leather, STEP, which is facility-based, and then Eco Passport, which is based on chemicals. So we really have a wide suite of services that we offer.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. I always, and I'm sure I'm not alone, associating Okie-Tex so closely with Hohenstein, but really it's one of many testing certifications or protocols, I'll use that word if it's correct, that you're involved in. And it feels like with the number of chemicals and the complicated nature of performance textiles, because we keep just asking so much more of our textiles, both from a consumer market, but especially from a workwear market where we're saving lives and we want to protect our workers. So it just feels like this has become more and more important. And do you get that sense in your time at Hohenstein now that this has continued to rise in importance?
Yeah, so definitely when it comes to Okotex, it's all about testing for harmful chemicals for the wearer. So we don't want them to be exposed to anything, but also for the environment. So what happens when you're washing these garments and what's going into the environment? But I think in uniform, it's very important that the wearer is protected, that there's nothing in these garments that can cause irritation, reactions, or be harmful for potential, long-term situations. So a lot of uniform companies do like to get the Okotex Standard 100 testing, or if they're not certified, get restricted substance list testing, because you need to make sure your wearers are safe. I always say in retail, a consumer can choose what they want to buy, and if they don't like it, they can return it. In uniform, the wearers have little to no choice. They're going to get what is offered, and what they're wearing needs to be functional. It needs to make them comfortable, and they need to feel safe, because if they don't, it can affect their performance. So it's even almost more important for uniform than for consumer goods.
Really interesting. So I know, Anne, you gave a talk at our NAUMD 2026 convention, and thank you for taking the time to come and educate the network in all the good ways that you did. But you just said a word in there that that keys me into this thought, which is comfort, right? So the idea that and what that actually is, right? And because it's so variable depending on, in our industry, the job function, the apparel function. I was just talking with Simon from Hunter Apparel, and they made this body armor that they call like limb armor. So it literally just is, pieces of armor, if you will.
Interesting.
Limbs, right? But and I'm going on too far on a tangent, but the idea is that if you were to take full armor like a knight would have worn on a horse, that's obviously not going to be comfortable for a model law enforcement professional, right? So now recently your organization has gotten involved heavily in comfort and fit and not only testing for it, but you've got potentially solutions in the marketplace that you're working closely with. And I don't know, let's talk about comfort.
Yeah. So just a background on me. So I've been at Hohenstein for a year and a half, but before that, I spent 10 years in product development in the uniform industry. And I think what's important about third-party comfort testing is claims that are being made. So I cannot tell you how many times in my product development life I was told a fabric could do something, and we're not too sure if it actually could do it. That this fabric can create heating and cooling. And really the only way at the time to validate that is to really do wear testing, which is expensive, is not reliable. You don't always get good results from the wearers, and you can't always control the environment. So what we do at Hohenstein is we have actual scientific testing for comfort. So one example of something we do is we test for heat regulation, moisture management, and skin sensitization. And we actually have a device that's exclusive to us called Watson, which really is a plate that mimics human skin thermoregulation. And then we can create environments. So we can create climate, hot, humid, cold, dry, and conditions such as sweat, wind, sun. And what we do is we can test to actually say, this is actually what this fabric can do in terms of its cooling properties. I think that's one of the biggest misnomers out there, that a lot of fabrics and garments claim they can cool and breathe, and they really can't, because there's a lot of conditions that have to be involved, mainly moisture management. So we scientifically test for that. We have reports that come out and show exactly what the thermoregulation was of the body and what the results were. And then we actually offer quality labels. We offer performance and comfort quality labels that someone can use as a claim on their product to say it really did this. So I think it's really important, especially for heat management, which is always a hot topic in uniform, because a lot of people, right, are not well protected in warm environments. So that's becoming a big topic. And I think third-party testing is a great way to prove to yourself that this product can do it, but also be able to tell your wearers, this is safe, this is breathable, this is comfortable. Another comfort test we do is sensory comfort testing. So it's really about stiffness, absorption, wet cling of fabric, that are all important for wearers' comfort. And again, these are scientific tests that we do, that we have specific results, and we can give specific quality labels for it. So that's why I think third-party testing is really important for comfort, because you need to know it can really do what it does. We also can customize tests. Confidentially, we've partnered with some large companies in terms of, ballistic or various fabrics to help come up with tests for what they need. So we scientifically can really offer a wide range of solutions when it comes to comfort.
Amazing. And fit is monster challenge across the whole apparel industry, right? And of course, we're no exception. And one of the things we like to point out about our industry, among many others, is we don't have the luxury of saying we design clothing for women sizes 0 to 10. If you are different than that, please shop elsewhere. Like, we don't have that luxury, right? So we have to fit every single person, every single body type, even if we have to make that as a custom one-off item, quite literally. So not to mention handicap situations, or situations where there's a particular job that needs to be done and the clothing normal grading just won't work for that, that situation. And we're getting into territory that I don't know very much about, but I know fit is everything. There's been these companies now with technology exploding the last half dozen years of so many different sizing companies that have approached our NEOMD network, that have approached the industry, that approach retail. It's just feels like this giant, a bit of a mess from a standpoint of a consumer, but also from the standpoint of like a company trying to figure out, well, what is the best approach? And I know you've talked about this before. Could you talk about how we got to this mess of sizing? Like, I know you've explained to me about why sizing ain't what it used to be.
Yeah. So the mess with sizing is coming from a couple places. So the first is about 25 years ago, the industry, specifically women's apparel, but a little bit with men's, went to something called vanity sizing. So if once upon a time you were a size 8, they changed their size scale. Now you're a size 6 or you're a size 4. So what happened is, as people were shopping and finding that they were smaller sizes, they found loyalty to those brands because of this fake vanity sizing. So and it really got very out of control at some point. In some places, you would go into a retailer and you would be 4 sizes smaller than probably what you actually were. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is fit types. So then we started identifying things as skinny fit, classic fit, modern fit, generous fit. Right. All of these fits. So nobody knows what their size is because of vanity sizing. Now there's all these fits. And then the third trend that's really challenging is the massive weight loss medications that Americans have been taking, which is fantastic, that people are losing massive amounts of weight in short amounts of time. So if you're a uniform company, you could have wearers that are literally, their size is changing all the time. So it's really complicated fit in a big way. Just to touch on a few things, one thing we have at Hohenstein is called Apparel Fit Solutions, and it's a division that we consult on fit. So we can consult on grades, we can consult on, base sizes, fit blocks, etc. But what we offer is the ability to fit on avatars. So we could create avatars for a wide range of sizes that you could look at different fits on. And we also have thousands of live fit models worldwide. So what's challenging in uniform is, to your point, Rick, the grades go far. Men's can go up to a size 8X. And in the process of this grade, is your 8X really fitting? Well, what we can help do is I create an avatar or identify a fit model that we could then actually look at some of those garments on various sizes to help consult on if the fit is right. So that's a big challenge in uniform. Then the other thing that we offer is we've partnered with a company called Sizekick. And Sizekick actually has worked with Hohenstein to use over 100,000 of our fit profiles. They have over 1 million worldwide. And it's actually an app that is powered by AI to use all of the fit profiles we have, plus the wearer information, to give a 99% predictable and accurate fit recommendation to the wearer. So what's really interesting about Sizekick is there's, a big problem in uniform is fittings. So traditionally what happens now is there's a fit closet, a wearer has to go to a location, there might be a tablet, there might actually be live measurements. And most people, even if trained, don't know how to measure accurately. Most people don't know how to measure themselves. So what's great about Sizekick is it's an app. It's powered by AI. It's completely digital. And basically what happens is once a company decides they want to use this solution, a link is sent to the wearer. The wearer in their own home or wherever they want to be can put in some basic information, height, weight, a few fit profile discussions, and then they use their phone and the app to scan themselves. What that does is it creates measurements that immediately go into the tool, and AI quickly comes out with a size profile. So this is accurate like 99 to 100% of the time. It really, it's very quick. Nobody has to go anyplace. And then the other really cool thing about it is not only is it going to tell the wearer what their size is, you can go into another page in the app and the assortment's there. So they can actually select the assortment that they need for their uniform from the sizes that were predicted. And then from that, Sizekick can create dashboards. So in a given time, if a company wanted to get so many people sized in a few days, they could get a dashboard that week explaining all the sizes of all the garments and all the styles they need and place their orders. Or supply chain can use this dashboard to, look at their size scales. Say, is this accurate? Are my projections accurate? Am I missing outlying sizes? Am I going to be out of stock in something soon? So we can use this to create these dashboards, and it's all in real time. It's all immediate. So it's a very effective and really cost-efficient tool for accuracy.
Okay, there was a lot in there. One of the last thoughts I had based on something you were saying is I started thinking to myself, boy, is this going to change the bell curve that a lot of our industry relies on to know if I have to fit 100 people, typically I'm going to have this number of XLs and this number of 2XLs and this number of 3XLs, right? Like I can reasonably predict the population of, if a company has 4,000 employees, I can reasonably predict, how that's going to go. And it sounds like you're saying the dashboards will help the merchandisers predict the future of that bell curve as it changes, as we all go on these GPL-1 drugs and suddenly we're all, X number of sizes different.
Yeah, I feel like the bell curve for sizes, that the predictability has never been great. I don't think supply chains, I think they do a good job, but it changes all the time. It's almost impossible to have a bell curve that's accurate, especially when there's such a wide size range offered, where using Sizekick, it's going to be more accurate. And it's going to be more specific. It could be for periods of time. It could be for regions. But I think it's going to be important because these bell curves are changing a lot. I think the predictability is not what it used to be. And I think it's affected supply chains and it's impacted inventories to some degree.
Very interesting. I think a factor likely is that the age range of workers keeps increasing, right? Not that we're starting people younger, but we definitely are, working now to our 60s, 70s, and apparently in the US, you have to be 80 years old to work in the White House. So, right? I mean, we just keep expanding that, that range. Yeah. And I imagine that's an issue too. We start shrinking, don't we? At what age do we start shrinking?
Some start shrinking, some start growing, but yeah, this is just a much more accurate way to be predictable. It could be for periods of time. There's just a lot of information that can come from this that's really going to be more accurate and can be easily used by the wearers. That's the other thing. Right. It's very easy for someone to size. Like I told you before, it's also great for new employees. So, right. If you're in a situation, let's say you're a QSR and you're sitting with boxes of stuff and hoping it's going to fit someone, somebody could use Sizekick when they accept a job, and immediately the operator or the decision maker knows what size some of their new employees are going to be. So it can be used for smaller scale actions as well.
Quick QSR meaning quick service restaurants.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And and they have a big challenge because it's such a high turnover and it's young people. And if we don't dress young people in something that they're comfortable with, they may not show up the next day to work. So
Exactly. I mean, a worker having an accurate fit is important for their motivation, but it's also important for their functionality and their safety. Another thing that we do at Hohenstein is we don't just advise on fit, but we have models that we can imitate what workers are doing in a 4D setting. So we can mimic someone climbing a ladder and see if, okay, are our grades and our specs right for that activity. So we can create activities to determine what the functionality and fit of the garment should be.
I saw a couple of years ago that your teams had done that 4D room to test like how the knee, specifically like the knee was performing to bending and stretching and all of this stuff. And it was just fascinating that getting into some real detail on which can make or break, life-saving, while we're not, wearing the uniforms ourselves. We're outfitting the heroes that need to go out, and, they will hop a fence, or they'll jump into a fire, or they'll need to do stuff that mere mortals don't. So very interesting. Trying to remember if there was something else related to those dashboards idea or the tech. I mean, but it's not like we're coming out with, 2XL plus, or 2XL minus. It's like we still have these set sizes. So,
right.
The skeptic says, well, wait, is this all just way overkill? I should know, I should be able to more easily determine if I'm a XL or a 2XL. I mean, is that an unreasonable statement?
Yeah, I don't think it's overkill. I think it's just accuracy so that somebody can get the right size up front. In uniform, you don't really have the luxury of returns and exchanges. And if you do, it's very, very cumbersome. So they get what they need up front, and supply chains are informed. So I think it's just a matter of accuracy. I think probably not having it is more overkill with inaccuracies that can happen. So
fair. Okay.
Saves time and money. So
good answer. And I guess, the thought just left my head.
It's okay.
See, that's the difference between doing this live here, right? Is that then I can't edit that out later. How does, for a number of years now, this whole sustainability question comes into it. And some even will lump sustainability in with these sizing tools. Like that's their pitch on, why you should use a sizing tool is because of returns. And I just remembered what it was. We can make these claims of 99% accuracy based on returns, right? You can say, okay, well, they used to get this number of returns and now they get this number. And so basically we've improved the fit to a 99% accuracy because less than 1% of people are having to exchange or return. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. The other thing about apparel fit solutions is if we're doing fitting on 3D avatars, what that saves is multiple sampling to achieve an approved fit. So at some point, of course, you're going to have a garment and fit it. But in the meantime, you can do fittings on an avatar and you're not having samples go back and forth. So you're saving thousands of dollars as well as saving the environment from yet more samples that are probably going to need to be destroyed at some point. So that's an important thing about more modern fitting with 3D and 4D technology is it significantly saves on samples as well as time.
Right. Yes, agreed. And how about, sustainability in general? Where does just taking us back up to the 20,000 foot view? Is this like a piece that Hohenstein is continuing to hone as nation states? You guys service so many different countries, right? I imagine it's a challenge to help people either meet standards or beat standards or consider what standards they want even to adopt.
Yeah. So one thing that we do is we are updating our standards and our testing to new limit values all the time. Okotex updates yearly, and it's really keeping in mind, and Okotex is very aligned with the firm, what regulations are happening and what we need to react to. Also at Hohenstein, we do have a specific regulatory advisory branch that can work with companies and consulting on global regulations because they're changing so much. But we are always trying to react to that, as well as determine what we think are dangerous or harmful substances ourselves. I think when it comes to sustainability in uniform, the big buzz in uniform and apparel right now is end of life of the garment. Yeah. So there's a lot of discussions. Can you recycle? Can you reuse? But if you can't do either of those two things, how biodegradable is your garment going to be in a landfill? So we are seeing an uptick, and we perform biodegradability testing at Hohenstein. And basically, that's basically testing garments in soil for a set amount of time. But there's a couple of factors that are really important with that. So we have to set external factors such as soil, temperature, humidity, etc. But biodegradability is really important on internal factors. So that is specifically for the sample or the style you're testing. What's the material, the construction, the dye stuff, the finishes. So it's a combination of those two factors that impact biodegradability. And it's really important when we test on something that we have all the unique attributes tested separately. So I give an example of we tested a t-shirt, exact same fabric, size, stitching, everything identical, except one was white and one was black. So the biodegradability was completely different of the black than the white because the dye stuff impacts it. So if we're testing, we have to test every single component. And then what happens when the biodegradability testing is done is we evaluate both the garment, but also the soil. We evaluate if anything toxic has gone into the soil that could impact earthworms or terrestrial plants, anything like that. And from that, we give it a biodegradability rating. So if the soil passes and the garment can biodegrade 90%, we actually have a biodegradable quality label that we can offer. So we do this testing.
Amazing. So what's the science fiction version for a few years from now, or what's the future innovation that that I don't know that you see as possible in testing, or are certifications going to change? Is AI going to change everything about that industry? Like everyone's threatening it's going to change every industry. I mean, I'm asking a very broad question. You could take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So I would say in terms of us and evolution of certifications is for sustainability, we have a label called Made in Green. And Made in Green is the gold standard for sustainability. So what that is doing is it's looking at testing for harmful chemicals. So that would be the Oeko-Tex Standard 100 certificate. But then it's also looking at the facility, that we want to make sure that the facility things are being made in have strong environmental performance, chemical management, quality management, health and safety, social responsibilities. So that facility, based on meeting all of those standards, can get certified. So then if you take Oeko-Tex and STEP, that's the certification, you could have the Made in Green label, which is really saying, I've done it all. I have a safe product, I'm making it in a safe environment, and that's the gold standard. And we are finding an increased interest in Made in Green from us. Oeko-Tex sees that expanding as well. So we really see that as future certifications for us. In terms of regulations, I definitely think that there could be more regulations around heat management. There's nothing live, but there's definitely talks from a lot of safety bodies, about heat management of apparel and how that might need to be regulated so that wearers can be safer. PFAS is always a conversation, and that regulation continues to change, update, etc. And then there isn't really any regulation about biodegradability yet, but it could be coming. I also think the other big thing coming in certain countries and certain states, this is going to get stricter, is taking the garment at the end of the life and finding some way to recycle it. We don't specifically deal with that, but I know that there's a lot of companies working on it. No one's kind of found the golden nugget yet. There's a lot of parts of a garment that can't be recycled. There's a lot that goes into taking it apart to recycle. And what it can be recycled to is not as broad as we would like, but there's definitely, we see legislation coming about finding ways to reuse and recycle more garments. I know there's a lot of uniform customers that are very interested in that they don't want these garments going to landfills because apparel is actually one of the biggest polluters of landfills. So I think that's going to be a big conversation. And I think as there's more solves to that, we're going to see more regulatory activity.
The optimist in me thinks something's going to come along that we can't even imagine at the moment. Something that, like the equivalent of putting it in a microwave oven, a giant one, right? And it just poof, does something different. It like it literally refabricates, or alters the chemical structure of the atoms and literally, does something different. And that would solve not just textiles. I'm picturing that's some sort of, a thing. But that's the science fiction optimist in me.
Yeah, you know what? We never knew 20 years ago that we'd be using our cell phones to open our garage doors. So, I think something could be coming. I think the marketplace really wants it to come. It's just going to be, who's going to be the evolutionary that comes up with the solve that's the easiest, that logistically makes sense, and that can be done. Because another big problem with recycling is logistics, is where does it get dropped? How do you get it? And who picks it up? So,
Wonderful.
if apparel can become like plastics in a lot of states, that'll be a big sell. But it'll be interesting to see what evolves, because I agree with you. I think something radical will happen in the near future.
Yeah. Boy, Anne, what a pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you so much. It was great.
Thanks, Rick. This was great. Well, anytime. It's good to talk to you, and I'll see you at NAUMD next year.
And I get Hohenstein.com. And then is there a Sizekick one too that you want to refer us to?
So there's information, but no, definitely Hohenstein.us is the best website to go to. Yes.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Anne Henning.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Bye.